like you can consider like this is behind the scenes as we like go live, but yet we're not live, and people, we haven't told them, hey, we're here, we're ready. All right, yeah. So I like the music, kind of get the set the tone. All right, then we're gonna dive in because this is actually gonna be a really good conversation. So
Okay.
let's go ahead and bring all of that to a close. And hello, everybody. I am Robert Ferguson. I am a guy who shares because I care. I'm a nutritionist and a guy who's really on a mission to make a difference. And today I am joined by nutritionist, health, and weight loss coach Stephanie Smith. What's up, Stephanie? Thank you for making time for me.
I'm good. How about yourself?
Well, I am great. Now, before we
Awesome.
dive in and talk about what we're going to talk about, I want people to know that you're not someone who's just talking.
Okay.
Take a look. I mean, that is I'm going to say you were there at one point in your life, and I watched you make a decision to improve yourself. And then there's a photo of you based on like the life you're living at this moment.
Absolutely.
So as part of your introduction to those who are watching, you kind of tell them who you are. And when you look at that photo, like what comes to mind when you look at that?
I look at the photo on the left. Man, I never want to ever go back to that person ever again. I was a mom of three, or I am a mom of three. I was severely overweight. I was depressed. I was on anxiety meds. I was on acid reflux meds. I was just miserable in my body. I was an educator at the time, and I knew when I walked away from education that there was something that I had to do with my life, because I knew that I couldn't keep walking on the path that I was walking on. In that picture on the left, I was over 200 pounds. And yeah, there's a lot of emotions to this picture here. And the picture to the right is that was actually a couple of weeks ago. I am the happiest I have ever been in my entire life. I'm a 44-year-old mom of, like I said, of three. I'm a GG to 1 2-year-old little boy. And I am so thankful that I'm able to keep up with my 2-year-old grandson each and every day, because the woman on the left would have never been able to keep up with her kids nor her grandson, with the condition that I was in. I'm currently off of all of my medications. I take 0 medications now. And that was my goal as well, is to get off all medications.
Wow. I'm curious. Do you have any idea, or even if you guess, how much were you spending? Because some people don't spend anything because they don't have co-pays. But were you
Uh-huh.
did it cost you money to be on meds?
Yes, it was costing me. I'm not really sure exactly how much, but irregardless of the fact that, whether it was costing me $5, $10, $20, my ultimate goal was to get off all medications. I did not want to have to depend on medications for the rest of my life. And I knew that if I didn't change my way of living, that's exactly the route that I was going on top of having other conditions as well that was starting to arise from me being severely overweight. My doctor had already told me that I was well on my way to becoming a type 2 diabetic. And I was in the pre-type 2 diabetic stage. I had started having problems with my blood pressure. And so I knew that, that was something that I needed to do, was make that change.
Well, a lot of people would look at that, and because you're in the gym, right? They would say, well, it's all about exercise and it had nothing to do with nutrition. Um, Obviously, you worked out and you continue to work out and be active. But I mean, I know your story, but for those who are hearing it for the first time, um, would you advocate? I mean, obviously you would because you're a nutritionist, but what was the role of nutrition for you?
My role in nutrition was probably, until I found you, obviously, was honestly the hardest part. They say that the hardest part is like gym and stuff like that. But honestly, the nutrition is the hardest part. And thankfully, I was able to find you because I was so thankful because I knew that I did not want to diet. And so when I found you and I was able to continue with my weight loss, I was just blown away that I was able to still eat the foods that I love and still be able to lose weight. And so, I didn't start out working out. That's not something that I started out doing. I just started out moving my body. I seriously moved my body for probably the first 3 to 4 months. I live in Texas, so it got a little bit too hot in Texas around March, April. And so I knew that I needed to do something else. That way I can continue on with my exercise. I just started making small changes within my daily movement. And, currently I'm working I'm working out at least 3 to 4 days a week. I try to shoot for 5. Some days that doesn't happen, but I make sure that I am always constantly moving my body.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that. And we'll keep going back and forth to your own personal journey.
All right.
But I'm excited because I feel that you are really good at communicating on camera.
Well, thank
And
you for that.
no, I mean, I really do. Like you and I we did a long interview, but only like a part of it got covered last year. And I really liked it. So a guy who's been in media and I've done a whole bunch of stuff, you're very well spoken and you definitely are like transparent and you just keep it real. And so I believe that this conversation can be really helpful for a lot of people. And for those of you who are listening to us, if you have questions, I want you to post your questions in the comments if you're catching it live. And even if you catch the replay, just post it. We'll go back and maybe we'll address it in a follow up. But we're going to talk a lot about what Stephanie and I both do as coaches to help you, not just with losing weight, lowering blood sugar, getting that under control, helping you learn about insulin and optimize that and get off medications because Stephanie's walked it out and done it. And now she's a coach. And so everything that we're going to talk about is exactly what Stephanie can provide to you, what I can provide to you. And we have other coaches that can provide to you because we have an evidence-based or a scientifically validated methodology that is also clinically proven. And there's not a lot of people that can say clinically proven. There's a whole bunch of people can say evidence-based because that just means they have citations or evidence to support what they recommend, but yet they have not gotten in the water. You know what I mean? It's kind of like having like papers that say how swimming works, but yet you never swim. We actually have gotten in the water and swam. And so we've proved our hypothesis of that you can eat regular everyday foods you enjoy, and still not only lose weight, but improve overall health. So I asked Stephanie if she would be so kind as to play devil's advocate, to ask questions to me that she's gotten, and of course she answers, but she's going to ask me questions that a lot of you guys have questions about. A lot of people she's met has questions, and then I'm going to do my best to answer it, and then we both will collaborate on it and go from there. So I know we're going to talk about insulin resistance. I know we're going to talk about, fasting glucose and what that means when it comes to losing weight or your health. We're going to talk about probably getting off some medications. Is there any other thing we're going to talk about, Stephanie, that you know? Because you have the questions.
Yeah, just, exactly how, like the exercise programs that are prescribed to them or things like that. Typically, a lot of questions that I get asked is like, what happens after the 8 weeks? Like, are you going to just throw me to the wolves? Or am I going to be able to renew the coaching program with you? So those are just some of the questions that I've been asked before, and most of these questions that I have had answers for, and some of them I'm just kind of curious to how you would answer those questions.
Okay, actually, let's start there. So what Stephanie is referring to, you guys. So if you reach out and get with one of our coaches, to include Stephanie, and you become a client, we work with people in 8-week cycles. And so at the end of 8 weeks, you have the option to continue and maybe do another 8 weeks. And then after that 8 weeks, you can continue to do another 8 weeks. It's the exact same thing that happens with personal training. If you've ever experienced personal training, you go to a gym, they'll sign you up for a month. You'll do a full month, 4 weeks. And then if you like it, you'll pay for the next 4 weeks. We just work in 8-week cycles. So sometimes there's a discount if you continue. But let me tell you this. And Stephanie, you've heard me say this, and if not recently, let me just reinforce it. I have clients that I have coached for over 20 years. And I'm not talking like one or two, a lot of clients. So I've been in the game for a long time. So when a person, and personal trainers could say the same thing. I know personal trainers that have clients they've been doing personal training with for 10, 15, 20 years. So when you have, it's like business coach. If you have a really good business coach, or like a Janet Jackson, if you have a really good dance coach, or like a Celine Dion, if you have a really good voice coach, if they're good and they're delivering, why would you stop? So it's not one of those things where it's like, I'm gonna go 8 weeks and then it's over. Then you're treating it like a diet. Depending on where you are, you have the opportunity to, let's go another 8 weeks. And if you're working with Stephanie, you're working with me or any of our coaches, you're learning something as you're working with them. And guess what? When new things happen, when new things come out, new ingredients come to the marketplace, things to avoid, that's our job. So if we're coaching you, you're going to become aware of that. So to me, it doesn't make any sense for someone to stop having a coach when it comes to what we do. I mean, I really believe that, Stephanie, like, because if I coach someone a year ago, there's so much more information that my current clients are aware of that they weren't aware of a year ago. So it's not like science stops and that whatever you learned a year or 2 years ago, that's the end all be all. So those people who I'm not coaching, same. All right, I'll give you an example. So I did an infomercial that I created a program in 2005. You follow me?
Mm-hmm.
And it went to market in 2009. In 2009, when it went to market, I told people grapeseed oil is okay. Get grapeseed oil. It's an alternative to other oils. Well, I know today in 2023 that grapeseed oil is one of the worst oils you can consume. But when it first came into the marketplace, the propaganda around it and a lot of the lies, you had to weed through it, right? So remember, that was 2005. That was 18 years ago when it came to market. And I said, hey, grapeseed oil is a good alternative to certain oils. I would never recommend grapeseed oil to anybody today. So if someone bought that program in 2009 that was created in 2005, they have old information.
Right.
But if someone's my client today, they know that extra virgin olive oil is the best oil to cook with unless you're deep frying. Done. All right. So you ready to get into it?
Yeah.
All right. So you're guiding this, Stephanie. You're guiding
All
it.
right.
All right. And if anyone posts a question and you want me to like bring it up, I'll mention it to Stephanie. So I'm opening up my phone here. Because sometimes questions will come across on my phone that don't show up in our feed. Okay. All right. So your call. Let's get started with whatever coming to mind, Stephanie.
All right. Let's do this. So how does my glucose help lose weight?
That's a great question, actually. So glucose, whenever we say glucose, for those who are new to this, that is sugar floating around in your blood. And when your glucose is elevated really high, which you can get with lab work, and you can buy a monitor like on Amazon, or you can go to Walgreens or whatever, get a monitor. If your glucose is over 99, you're either pre-diabetic or you're full-blown type 2 diabetic. If you're full-blown type 2 diabetic, that means that for about 10, 15, maybe 20 years, you've had elevated levels of insulin, which is a hormone that has been elevated up. And insulin one of its main jobs is to get sugar out of the blood and into the cells. If sugar just stays outside of the cells, you can experience neuropathy, losing feeling in your fingers. You can go blind. You have an increased risk of stroke and heart attack. So that's the big concern when glucose levels are up. And if insulin is not doing its job, then that means you're at higher risk, and you definitely want to get with a physician and get some support, some help, because you're walking around like you're almost a dead person walking. So when glucose is elevated, that is a symptom that insulin is elevated. And when insulin is elevated, the hormone, you cannot release fat. So I'm going to say that again. You cannot release fat. So if you have a fat cell, let's say that my entire fist is a fat cell, right? And so in order to release fat, I got to open up the fist. But if I have elevated insulin, the fist stays closed. So the chances of you releasing and burning or oxidizing fat is very reduced because you have elevated insulin. So we get the sugar levels down, then that's a sign that we're probably impacting the insulin in a positive way, which makes it easier for you to like release fat. So I'm gonna stop there because it can get, I don't want to make it too scientific, but it can get confusing to people. But your glucose levels play a huge role, not only in giving us an idea of where you are with insulin resistance, if you have it, but even when I work with professional boxers, if a boxer is losing weight, right? Because they can't make money unless they lose the weight. So let's say I'm bringing their weight down, 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 and I'm testing their glucose. If their glucose levels start to go up, well, obviously they're not gaining weight. Obviously they're pretty healthy. They're working out 2-3 times a day. Why is the glucose going up? That is a sign that they have a depletion of electrolytes. And if they have a depletion of electrolytes, that's going to negatively affect their ability to perform when it comes to getting into the ring. Just because I'm watching glucose. I do the exact same thing when I'm working with endurance athletes. If I was working with Lance Armstrong or anyone like that type of nature, I would want to look at their glucose on a daily basis because it's one of the many markers that's helping me identify with where they are as far as electrolytes. That means their ability to perform at the highest level. And if we were trying to lose weight, then that would help me have a better or clearer idea on if we're dropping weight healthfully instead of setting ourselves up for something negative.
Okay.
So you think I confused people on that, or do you think they got it?
Maybe some confused and some got it.
Okay, so what would be your follow-up? Let's say someone's not getting it and they're like, okay, well, like, like, maybe they have another question that goes with that.
Yeah, I mean, my question would be like, can you break down into simpler terms? Some people just need it broken down into simpler terms.
Okay. Simpler terms would be every one of us wants homeostasis with glucose. What does that mean? When it comes to our temperature, most people say that the average temperature around the world, whether you're Ethiopian, you live in Australia, you live in America, the temperature is 98.6 Fahrenheit. Right? If you have a fever, it can go up. The certain diseases, it'll drop down. So the homeostasis is the balance. So 98.6, and it's a little decline now or elevated, but that's like what most people are aware of. Well, the same as you have a temperature that's supposed to be at a certain range, you have homeostasis when it comes to your blood glucose. It should be anywhere from 60 to 99 when you first wake up within 10 minutes of waking, before you eat anything. If your glucose is over 99, then you fall into the range of being either pre-diabetic or full-blown diabetic. And if you're diabetic, it's harder to lose weight compared to someone who's not diabetic. So ultimately, as you're losing weight, we also want to look at how to bring your glucose numbers down.
Okay.
We want to bring them down to homeostasis. And by doing that, you're able to expedite your ability to lose weight.
Okay. That makes
Boom.
sense.
How was that?
Yeah, that was great. That was good.
Okay. All right. We got that one. Bring it on. Let's keep it moving, people.
All right. What should I do if my glucose is high in the mornings or after I eat?
What should you do? What?
What should I do if my blood sugar is high in the mornings or after I eat?
Okay. So I'm just going to give 4 examples of what can cause your fasting glucose to be elevated in the morning. If your sleep is altered, let's say you don't sleep well,
Mm-hmm.
let's say you have a bad night's sleep, then your fasting glucose is going to be elevated a little bit. So let's say you're normally 97, 98. Yeah, you're going to be 99. I mean, like 109, 113, just because your sleep was off.
Okay.
But let's say your sleep is good, but maybe last night you had a tart. You had a sugary drink. Maybe you ate, someone had a carrot cake in the house and you had a couple bites. Whatever you ate the night before is going to play a role in what your fasting glucose is going to be.
Okay.
Let's say that you didn't eat anything like high in sugar, and let's say your sleep was great. Well, let's say you got a lot of stress at work. Stress can cause your glucose to also be elevated in the morning. So stress can play it can play a huge role. And then you have this thing called the dawn phenomenon. And the dawn phenomenon, DAWN, like when the sun is coming up, it is a phenomenon because you could do everything perfect, but wake up in the morning and have elevated fasting glucose. And the only other thing was like certain medicines or medications, sometimes even ibuprofen can cause your glucose levels to be elevated in the morning.
Okay.
So there you go. So sometimes, and it's nice. See, that's a prime example. Also, when you person has a coach, then it's not like them just kind of guessing and trying to wonder and trying to go on and spend hours on Google. When you have a coach who specializes in what we do, then it doesn't take. I mean, it's pretty quick for us to help you like work through it and figure out exactly where the problem is, and then with a problem comes a solution.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So, what does my carb threshold score tell me? I
Uh-oh.
know most of the time they'll get carb threshold scores within the program, and so I would like to know what is that going to tell me?
All right. What is a carb threshold? I mean, you just went right there. Which is great. We can go right there. So, what is a carb threshold score? So, we have a proprietary, meaning we own this thing called a carb threshold score. You, me, other coaches that are trained and certified on our methodology. We take in certain data from a person, and then we can quickly give them a score that goes from 0 to 100. If the score is less than 60, that tells us that they have some level of insulin resistance. The good news is that whatever their level of insulin resistance is, we put them on a path to reverse it, and you reverse it by increasing your score. So, for instance, I had a client whose score was 1, and they're like, man, I don't have anywhere else to go but up. I go, yeah, exactly. And now that person has a score of 65. So 65 is basically saying, I no longer have insulin resistance. And then once you no longer have insulin resistance, you can eat more things without gaining weight. You can eat more. You remove yourself from a whole bunch of health risks and challenges. And we can update their score every month. So if your waist gets smaller, your score goes up. If your body fat comes down, your score goes up. If your weight comes down, your score goes up. You see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
If your glucose is 140 and now is 109, your score goes up. So as you improve metabolic health, your score goes up, which then means we are reversing insulin resistance.
All right.
Did I do a good job on that one?
Yeah. Yeah. Great. All
All
right.
right, let's turn this into a training session for those who, because Stephanie, we live in a world where a lot of people really, I think everybody wants to be healthier, but I don't believe that most people can see how they can be healthier.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so when you
Everybody just
don't,
thinks they have to go on a diet. That's the thing.
and a diet that's painful, right? Like my clients, I never say you can't have pancakes. I just show them how to eat pancakes in a way that keeps them on pace to get results. I don't tell clients they can't have pizza. I show them how they can eat pizza and still get results. You know what I mean? Like it's like diets don't do that. Diets put you in a place of full deprivation, and in deprivation meaning you got to give up a lot to get an outcome that unfortunately is not sustainable.
Right.
And if you're empowered to see that and understand that, when you meet people, you realize how quick that they don't know what the hell they're talking about. Like when I go to a conference, right? Let's say there's a whole bunch of fitness and health and nutrition people. So think about this. I want you to ask me a question as one of those people. Because I'll have clients, they'll say, well, I was doing this one program and they said that I had to gain weight first before I lose it. What? That's like, or I'll meet someone, they'll say, well, they said that you can never, you got to avoid like wheat because, or gluten, blah, 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 blah. I go, okay. And and these people come across very confident that a lot of clients start to believe it. And as they do diet to different diet, they acquire knowledge, almost like tapes playing in their head, and they start to develop beliefs, right? So like I have a lady who she was on a diet called Optavia. You ever heard of that?
I have heard of that actually.
Okay. So it's sold through a network marketing company. So people become coaches and then they put people on the program so they make money. Um, and then they coach the person through the program, and the person's goal is to lose weight. And a
Okay.
large part of the program is that you're eating a lot of their supplements and prepackaged type of meals.
Mhm.
And you get a little bit of freedom where you can eat like one meal a day on your own. And when people lose weight, other people see that they lost weight and they say, hey, I'm a coach. Let me show you our program. And people want to lose weight so bad, Stephanie, that friend or that person that they met, they're like, I'm going to do it. And then they pay money. So this lady that I'm working with, she was on Optavia and she was in pain. She hadn't had fruit over a year because someone told her that fruit was high in sugar and it was bad.
Wow.
Like, so she bought into it, right? So I mentioned on Facebook that I was taking on clients and she reached out to me. She said, I'm doing Optavia. I said, look, you've already spent the money, but let's get started. And if there's a way to eat some of the foods you've already bought, then we'll work it in. Her first week, she loses 8 pounds. And you know what she was excited about? She was excited about that. She goes, Robert, I ate fruit this week.
Wow.
I ate food. I had regular food. I sat down with my husband and ate food, not a prepackaged meal, not something that came out of a box. I ate food that I got, and she's excited about that. So imagine all the people that did not meet me or meet you, and they're doing that program, and then their mind, they think they can't eat fruit, they can't have regular food in order to lose weight. That is a injustice It's a disservice. And I think some of these people should go to jail. Seriously.
And I eat
Because
fruit every day.
yeah, I mean it's mind blowing to me. It's and there's people who will watch us do this who sell Optavia. And guess what? They're going to keep selling it because they get paid. They're like politicians. They're compromised. Once you're making money selling a lie, as long as you're making money, most people will keep selling that lie.
Yeah.
They're compromised. It's not just politicians.
I was going to say, unfortunately, that's just the world that we live in nowadays, right?
Well, for them, not me.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
Because I'm
yeah, I know. There's a few and far between.
yeah, because we're telling people, look, I can't make money on you buying broccoli at the grocery store.
No.
I ain't making money if you go buy steak for dinner tonight.
Right.
It's education that I'm giving you.
Right. The knowledge that we have.
Amen.
That people don't have, that people just don't have.
So anyway,
And this is
hopefully that
that
was helpful. We
been
still
able,
got people with us.
I
Let's
just
keep
feel
it
I was
moving.
just saying that this is something that they are able to carry on the rest of their lives with.
So someone just asked a question. They out of the blue, they said, "What's a good protein powder?" She says, "My husband got one at Whole Foods that had stevia in it. Was too sweet for me." Okay, should I answer that one?
Sure.
Okay. So stevia is funny. Like stevia is from a plant that grows primarily in Brazil, and is considered one of the healthier alternatives to sweeteners that have like aspartame or saccharin. But it's a supplement, so it was never FDA approved, meaning they didn't spend billions of dollars to be approved, like aspartame or saccharin or sucralose. And a lot of the yuppie type people or people that feel like they know more than others would just consider that stevia is ideal. Well, stevia negatively affects the gut microbiome the same as all the other sweeteners except for allulose. Stevia, for over 25 years, I don't consume because I know at one point I wanted to have kids, which I have kids, but a lot of studies demonstrated that stevia would inhibit one's ability for reproduction. Now, most people don't know that, and most people don't want to know that because in their mind, they felt that stevia was like the end all be all. Um, I was a big believer in sucralose as a sweetener, and I think that's better than aspartame and saccharin. Uh, and maybe you could argue it right there with stevia. But I think if you just consume things like that in minute amounts, I don't think you're going to run into many problems. Um, but allulose would be the one I would go for. So my answer to this lady is whenever you choose a protein powder, I would go with whey unless you have some allergic reaction to whey. And if you're vegan, then okay, I think I don't see that big of a deal, but it's suspect to me when you're getting that much protein from a pea, like pea proteins. I would really love for them to disclose and show how they manufacture that. Like, how many peas do you have to crush and process to get 15 to 30 grams of protein? What does that process look like? I would like companies to show that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like in my house, I don't have protein powders. I'm not against them because I encourage, people who want them. And at one point, I use them pretty regularly. And I have recipes where I make smoothies, but I would rather use Greek yogurt as my protein. Or I just won't have that much protein in that smoothie. But when I do use protein powder, I personally use one called Designer Whey. They've been around for a long time. I've never seen consumer reports beat them up as far as lead and arsenic and all these negatives inside of their protein powders. And they're primarily protein and they're not like a meal replacement. But I'm sure there's a lot of like Vega is a real popular brand. My gut says that they're probably a good brand to go with, especially if you're plant based or vegan. But and I think that I'm not sure what their sweetener is, but yeah, I would just say make sure a serving has at least 15 to 30 grams of protein, no more than 10 grams of total carbs, and that should be a decent protein powder.
I take a whey protein.
Yeah. And I like whey. Whey does spike your insulin levels, but when I consume it, I'm okay with that because, I think when you're metabolically healthy as you are, then okay, so what? Insulin goes up. Inside of 3 hours, it comes right back down. If you had a high level of insulin resistance, then maybe for a period of time, we should avoid whey. Because if insulin goes up, it could stay up for 6, 7, 10 hours. And as long as insulin is up, you cannot release fat from the fat cell and oxidize or burn that fat. So that's why eating every 2 to 3 hours is not ideal for most people, especially if they have insulin resistance. Okay. You got the chair.
All right. So my question to you is, now that you said something about you working with, you know, athletes and things like that, one of my questions was, will you be able to build muscle in this program?
Absolutely. How do you build muscle? You build muscle primarily through activating muscle, meaning hitting the weights and consuming an adequate amount of protein in order to have the building blocks to build muscle. So if someone works out and they're hitting the weights hard and they're an athlete, and this is a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think they'll eat more calories throughout the day because they're an athlete, or you think they'll eat less or the same?
What was the question again?
So if you have a athlete
Uh-huh.
who's working out a lot and they're hitting the weights really hard,
Mm-hmm.
will they eat more overall calories or will they eat less or the same?
Well, they're going to eat more calories.
Exactly, because activity and performance drives hunger.
Yes.
And with those added calories they consume, they're going to get an adequate amount of more protein. So you don't have to go out of your way to eat more protein because you're going to get that because you're eating more calories. It's a no-brainer. It's built in. So all the people you see walking around going, "Oh, I'm gonna get a protein bar. Oh, I'm gonna buy a protein drink. Oh, I'm gonna buy a protein snack. Oh, I'm gonna get more protein. Oh, I'm gonna buy some cereal with more protein. I'm just gonna get more protein, more protein, more protein, more protein." They're overdoing the protein. Now, for those of you who are going, "Yeah, yeah, yeah," but I'm an athlete. Look, I'm a former pro athlete. I'm in the Martial Arts Hall of Fame. I've competed at the highest level in MMA. I've trained many people to get on the Olympic team. I've trained many people to become world champions. I've lived this life since I was 5 years old. I ran the LA Marathon, blah, blah, blah. And it's not like, and everything that I've done for myself as an athlete, I've done for my athletes. And again, I've worked with a lot of them. So if anyone would know, I 1000% would know. So no one can really, you can't even argue with me. You know what I mean? It's like, because if I bring a Samuel Peter or a Lucia Riker, these are like world champions, a Sergio Mora, a Fernando Vargas, the people that I've worked with over the years, you can't argue it because not only have I done it for myself, I duplicated it for them. And then I continue to work with athletes and everyday people like around the world. So who's right, who's not? I mean, I was a vegan at one point in my life, so I know what it's like to be a vegan, and I know what it's like to be a meat lover. So when you're coaching someone, and those of you who are watching, if Stephanie's coaching you, she's able to tailor it based on what's specific to you. So whether it's a world-class athlete or a kid who's on his way to becoming a collegiate athlete, or someone who's used to be an athlete and they want to, you know what I mean? Like, we can help everybody.
All
Okay.
right.
All right. We got 20 minutes, Steph, at the max.
All right. So my next question will be, what happens if I can't ever really eat fast carbs?
So what do you mean by that? Because most people don't know what a fast carb is. Like pasta, pizza, bread, rice, quinoa, couscous, right? Those are fast carbs. So now ask the question again.
So what happens if I can't ever really have, I'm going to ask it, the client probably would, if I can't ever have like baked potatoes or breads and things like that?
But you could. No one said you can't.
Okay. All right.
You know what I mean? I think, like, was that one of those questions where once you said it, you're like, yeah, it's pretty obvious. I mean,
No, that's really a question that I've had before, and I'm like, okay, this is something that obviously we coach you on. So
okay, yeah, you're right. So
yeah.
sometimes, let me just say, especially in the beginning, sometimes people are going to get way better results because of their level of insulin resistance if they stick primarily to protein and slow carbs. But as your insulin resistance comes down, this thing called metabolic flexibility goes up. And all that means is that your body starts to favorably respond to fast carbs like pasta, pizza, glass of wine more favorably, right? It's like it doesn't do much damage, but you got to get started. And then as you're making progress, you're able to eat more, and we get you back to what you used to experience when you were 18, right? When you could almost eat cereal every night before bed and not gain a pound.
All right. So my next question is, and I know this will be something that some people don't know what a slow carb is, but I've had the question where, can I eat more than 2 slow carbs at a setting?
Yes.
Meal.
So when we make a fat burning meal, you have your protein in place, and then the minimum is you want to have at least 2 portions of a slow carb. You always have the option of having a third portion. So when I eat protein and slow carbs, trust me, I'm doing 3 portions of slow carbs. Like when I go to cheesecake, you ever been to cheesecake?
Yes, I have.
Okay. So at cheesecake, they have this Jamaican dish. It originally, if you don't ask for any changes to it, you get like shrimp. It has a plantain, which is a banana, fast carb. It has beans, slow carbs, and then it has rice, fast carb. So whenever I order it, because I do like beans, I say hold the plantain, so no fast carb there. Hold the rice and replace the rice with some extra beans. So I have shrimp and beans, and it's really good. And I'm happy with that. I actually look forward to that meal. So that's protein and slow carbs, shrimp and beans.
All right.
Yeah. All
So
right.
the minimum would be two slow carbs.
Yeah.
But you
Minimum 2. You always have the option of 3.
okay.
All right.
How long will this take? How long will it take me to reverse being insulin resistance?
Wow. Everybody's different. So let me use the example of type 2 diabetes.
Okay.
If you have type 2 diabetes, you are insulin resistant without question. So, how long would it take someone to reverse type 2 diabetes? It takes anywhere from 12 to 15 months to completely reverse it, because you're doing a check. Like, so let's say it's January 1st. You have your hemoglobin A1C, you got all of your lab work, so we know where you are. And most of those people, not all, but many of them are taking some type of med for their diabetes. Let's say it's metformin. So you go 3 months, and now you're going to check your hemoglobin A1C again. They're still taking the meds, but we notice their glucose numbers and hemoglobin is better, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now let's say the doctor goes, okay, we're going to take you off 2,000 milligrams of metformin and we're going to cut it in half. So you cut the medication in half. So now you go another 3 months. You're still taking the medication. Now it's been 6 months. Numbers look great. Now they may say, let's cut it in half again. So now you go from 1,000 to maybe 500. This is worst case, because you could just cut it, just get rid of it. But let's say they cut it in half. So now you go another 3 months. That takes you to the 9-month mark. So now we got to get off the meds completely. You go another 3 months. Now it's been a year. Maybe your glucose, maybe it's all the way down. Maybe it's not. Maybe you're just a little bit in the pre-diabetic, but man, you've made a lot of progress. But you're off the meds. Mm-hmm. So now you go another 3 months to bring the hemoglobin A1C down with no meds, and you hit that area where you're no longer type 2 diabetic. That's 15 months.
Okay.
That's how it works. So I say, and that's worst case. Most people, we can do it in a year. A lot of people, we need that extra 3 months. Sometimes it's even a little longer than that. Right? Because I've had clients with hemoglobin A1C of 16% plus. And you're not going to do that in 6 months. It's going to take some time. But next thing you know, they're off all meds. They're no longer considered diabetic. The doctor removes it from their chart. They're eating regular food. They're having In-N-Out burger. I mean, they're eating. That's a win-win. So, I mean, when you have a coach, then you have someone that can work with you and stay with you, and you stay the course. And then you're off the meds and you're like thriving. That's the opportunity.
All right. So what happens now? This is somebody that's in the program already. This is a question that they would ask. So what happens, like, if I have ate my 3 meals and I've ate my snack for the day? What do you suggest eating? Do you suggest me eating? What do you suggest?
So it depends on the person. So if you have someone who is insulin resistant, which is most adults, mm-hmm. then the less times you eat, the better for you. So if you eat 3 meals and snack 2 to 3 times, that's not going to be good for you. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So if you snack once, then I would say don't eat unless you absolutely are becoming hangry. That's what I would recommend. There's no need to eat. But if you're hungry, then eat.
Okay, but what would you suggest eating? Would you suggest eating like a Greek yogurt, or what would you suggest?
I would tell a person to stick primarily to protein and slow carbs, or protein and fat.
Okay. All right. What type of exercise programs are prescribed to me while in the program? What exactly does that look like?
Well, everybody's different. So the psychology of weight loss is you begin with finding out what a person is able to do. And then you ask the question, what are you willing to do? Then you create a program around that. Mm-hmm. So for instance, if you have a client who's in a wheelchair and you're thinking run, well, they're not able to do that. Mm-hmm. They may be willing, but they ain't able. So you have to tailor a program or provide fitness recommendations based on what a person is able to do and what they are willing to do. And not everybody's willing to exercise. There's a lot of people that have no interest in exercising. I've coached a whole bunch of them, and that's fine. You don't got to exercise. We can still lose the weight, but I hope that as we work together, eventually a light bulb moment comes about, and they're like, all right, so what if I started walking? That's a great place to start. Well, if I started swimming, that's a great place to start. So then you start with what you're willing to do,
Okay. All right.
not what you and I want them to do, right? Because people don't want to do what we want them to do necessarily. They want to do what they want to do, right?
Right.
Because what we believe is a need for them is really is like I tell, like I don't want to do that, right? Because a lot of trainers and a lot of nutritionists push what they think people need, but people don't buy into what we think they need. They buy in to what they want.
Right.
So you have to find the middle ground. Give them what they want, but do it in a way where you know it's something that they need.
Okay.
Yeah, that was
Um.
that was an Oprah tweetable moment right there.
Yeah. I think that's pretty much it. That's pretty much all the questions that I had. Um.
Okay. Well, anybody else got questions? Anyone else want to like learn, pick up, take it to the next level?
I do. I do. I have a question personally. How much protein do you recommend an individual to eat per day?
Oh, that's a good question. And that's an ongoing debatable question. So I can answer that with some real solid um, confidence behind it. The most important time of the day to eat protein, or make sure you get an adequate amount of protein, I would say anywhere from 20 to 50 grams of protein for men and women would be in the morning.
Why is that?
Um, Protein is different than carbohydrates and fat. In short, fat, when you consume fat, there are storage sites. So think of like a storage facility.
Hmm.
When it comes to fat, you have storage facilities for fat, meaning fat cells, you can store fat in there. And if you don't eat fat, your body has fat in storage that it can use for what it needs fat for. That makes sense?
Hmm.
When it comes to carbohydrates, your liver primarily and your muscles primarily, they're storage sites for carbs. So if you don't eat carbs, you have carbs stored in your muscles as well as your liver to give your body that glucose, those carbs to do what it needs. Protein does not have storage sites. So when you eat protein, if your body does not use it in that 24-hour period or that period of time where you're alive, you're awake, that protein is being used for enzymes, for hormones, for nails, for skin, and whatever doesn't get used gets converted to fat or it gets converted to carbs. So when people overconsume protein, it's not like you can store that protein and use it for something else later. It just gets converted to carbs or fat. But having an adequate amount of protein in the morning and throughout the day helps repair all of the things that need to be repaired to include your muscle.
Hmm.
And so let's say you have someone who's fasting and they're 56 years old. They're female and they fell prey to the fasting thing. They wake up in the morning, don't eat. Well, if you don't eat and your body needs protein and there's no storage sites, where is your body going to get the protein from, Stephanie? Now, this is a good one. This could be a game changer for a lot of people. This is a good question.
It's going to pull from your your protein sources. Like it's going to pull from the. I would think it's probably going to pull from your muscle.
Everybody. All right, hold up. Right? Don't leave. I'm still here. I just got to change my camera.
It's going to pull from your muscle. That's something you don't want to lose.
You killed it. It's gonna pull from your muscle. Okay, are you there, Stephanie?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. 1 second. I'm changing my battery. So yes, it's going to pull from your muscle. And if it pulls from your muscle, then you're what they call you're catabolizing. And if you're catabolizing, then you're
And you
slowing
want
your
to stay in
metabolism.
a metabolic state for the day.
What's that?
I said you want to be able to stay in an anabolic state.
Yes.
That way you're constantly burning calories.
Yes. So you got it. So you can hear me, but we're having some difficulties with my camera. So I'm just going to have to let's see here if I can do my avatar. Okay. Well, that's not going to happen. But anyway, I mean, you can hear me. So you're there. You took it home. That was a great question. So if you do not eat enough protein, your body will break down your muscles into amino acids and then use those amino acids to do what it needs. So not eating an adequate amount of protein in the morning and throughout the day sets you up to catabolize, slows your metabolism, and you're totally defeating the purpose.
Right.
So I think we're good. What do you think?
All right. It was great. Yeah, it's great.
Okay.
Lots of valuable information here.
All right. Well, any last words you want to share with anyone? Invite them to your website. They can reach out to you for a free consultation.
Yeah. So the website there is listed. You can visit my website. It's wellnessbysmith.com. You're welcome to visit that site and schedule a free consultation.
All right. You got it, you guys. I'm Robert Ferguson. I'm with Stephanie. We gave you guys the best that we have to offer in less than 1 hour. Except for my camera dying. We're good.
All right. Sounds great.
Until the next one. And Stephanie, you can take this from my page and share it to your page. And I can also email you a copy of it, and then you can upload it and make it available to anyone that you want to make it available to.
All right. Sounds great.
All right, you guys. Until the next one, we're out. Peace.